I thought it would be more interesting if we did like a question and answer, which is why I've got Greta here to ask me the main questions. And then at the end, if any of you have got questions, stick your hand up, pretend we're in school. And the only other thing I wanted to mention before we sit down and start is that you may notice me shaking. Maybe more, maybe less than normal, I don't know. But it's not just because I'm nervous of you not here. No, it's because I've got this thing called essential tremor. I mean, honestly, who's ever heard of a worse named condition than essential tremor? Breathing's essential, but tremor not so much. Anyway, just ignore it and I'll try to as well.
I'm sure that most of you here know Jill, or Jay. Obviously Jay's a writing man, Jill's as most of us know her from. I've known Jill for over 10 years, where we both went to primary school where we worked. And one of the first things that Jill told me when we met was that she'd written a book, which I was incredibly impressed about. And I was waiting for it to come out literally within months. And it got to the point, it's like a bit like the elephant in the room. Shall I mention the book? It's been quite a while. But in fact, we always used to talk about it. She'd update me, and I think, Charles, again, it's been a while. So I loved hearing about the book, and I think that's true about Jill's other friends as well, I can't believe we're here tonight. We're actually there. That's fantastic. So yeah, we're going to do a bit of a question and answer session. You'll have to bear with me, but I've written them down. Not actually because of memory, because I am known for talking too much and going off on a tangent. So I'm going to be really strict with myself and look at this every now and again. Do remind me. So should we start, Jill?
Yeah.
To start, okay.
I'm going to say, how do you feel about having written a book? Well, it's amazing and a little bit surreal. I mean, I've had 60 rejections before getting to this stage. So when it came to this publisher actually saying yes, I was thinking, they made a mistake.
Clearly not. Here we are. So I'm going to start right at the beginning. Had you always wanted to write a book? Did you always have a book in you?
Well, I certainly loved reading as a child, as probably lots of us who are here did. Yeah, I read so much. I was lucky that my mum used to indulge us. That was the one thing that we could get away with asking for more of with books. So I used to get so many from the Scholastic Book Services that I'd get freebies. It's like, yes. I heard a friend say recently that the statistic is that about 80% of us think we've got a book in us. And I think it's about 3% actually go ahead and write. Well, I was one of the 80% at that point, thinking, yes, I'll write a book at some point, but then life gets in the way. I got sidetracked. I did start to write a book in 2011, of sort of rom-com sorts, but I made the rookie error of doing the first 3 chapters, writing them, and then polishing them, telling brilliant, and I never wrote the rest of the book. Not advised. And then we moved down to Devon and completely forgot. Well, not forgot, but it was on the back burner. Plus, I did think that if I ever wrote a memoir, that would be a problem because I was going to use most of my juicy bits from my past in this rom-com. So I really enjoyed reading that. So did you think then that your writing career might have just sort of ended before it even started at that point? Yeah, I really think I did.
And what got you back into it?
It was my sister. She told me one day about a near-death experience that she'd heard about where a little boy claimed to have met Jesus and had a conversation with him. And it got me curious about near-death experiences. So I looked them up. I found a really good website where so many accounts have written what's happened to them. Yeah, I found that really interesting. I'm now thinking, I don't see any hands, but does anyone want me to explain about what a near-death experience is? Okay, well, it's basically when a person clinically dies, their, call it spirit, soul, consciousness, leaves their body and is looking down from above, sometimes knowing that that's themselves no longer in pain. Or it could be that they look down and they think, what's going on? And don't even realise that's themselves. Usually then, they'll go off in what may be like a tunnel effect. And you know there's that expression, light at the end of the tunnel? I thought it was to do with near-death experiences. Looked it up. Apparently it's to do with railway tunnels. But to me it's more like the near-death experiences. Because again, most people say that there's this pinprick of light that gets bigger and bigger and brighter, but not blindingly bright. And then they end up in another dimension. Some will say it's like the most beautiful landscape they've ever seen. For others it might be like space. It just, all these accounts, they're so varied. They'll often meet people that maybe have passed away that they knew, or they might interact with other people, ones that they feel a connection with but don't recognise. Or it could be angels or religious characters, like in my sister's example. Anyway, they usually get to a point where either they're told it's not your time, or you've got to choose whether to stay or to go back to your body, back to your life. And I always thought, even if somebody says they want to stay, they're sort of gently persuaded, no, it's best for you to go back, or they come to that conclusion. But then, of course, if somebody has decided to stay, we wouldn't have the anecdote or the evidence to show that, because they wouldn't be able to let us know. So, I don't know. But yes, so generally they come back, and most of them will remember a lot. I think it should be called a temporary death experience rather than a near-death experience, because it would seem that you do actually die, and you get some people talking about maybe like they've been hit by a bus, or no, not hit by a bus, nearly hit by a bus, and they say, oh, I had a near-death experience, I was almost hit by this bus, and it's not quite the same.
I know Jill's fascinated with subjects, we've talked about it quite a lot, so if anyone's got any near-death experiences to share with Jill Walter, she likes hearing about. So now, you've got your inspiration, or you've got your idea, and that's a big part there. So how did you go about the beginning of writing it then?
It started back in 2018, June of 2018. I needed an operation on both feet. I was working as a teaching assistant at the time, so when I had the op, I had to stop work. That gave me a great big chunk of time when I couldn't do chores as well, what a shame. And then I was able to actually get on with my book. Then I went back to working for September, and it took me until May of the next year, so almost a whole year to write it.
Okay. So that, doing a maths there, that means that's about 5 years ago.
I know.
Could you explain that a bit more?
Oh, I was so naive back then. I thought, yay, I've written a book. Publishers are going to love this. I'm going to have a bestseller here. So I sent it off to, there's a Daily Mail new novel competition. I entered that, fully expecting to win. I wrote off to 4 agents, and then another writing competition came up. There are quite a few of them. Oh, and I also asked a good friend to read it, and I kind of gathered from her kind of lack of feedback, and I think she was just far too polite to tell me it was not up to scratch at that point, and also the fact that I didn't even get longlisted for the competitions, and the agents weren't interested. I knew I had to do more. So I found an online course on how to edit and pitch your novel, which was just 6 weeks long.
And do you think that helped?
Oh, it really helped. I mean, I learned how to format a book. I learned that the publishing industry does not like exclamation marks. I mean, I had 8 exclamation marks in my first sentence. I can see why they weren't interested. I also learned you don't write screech, bam, because it's more like a comic book. But the best bit of advice was from one of the other students. They said to me, perhaps you could add something to the plot, give it a bit more substance. And that was the best bit of advice. and I got on with editing, amending, and still submitting, and still getting rejections.
Yeah, there's that word of rejections that came up quite a bit. How did you cope with the rejections?
Oh, it was tough. I would, each time you send off a batch of submissions, you really hope that this might be the time that somebody will say, yes, I'm interested, and can I see the full manuscript? Then the rejections would either come through, or, even worse, they would say to you in the details, if you don't hear from us within X amount of time, consider that we're not interested. And that time would pass, and you think, oh, that's someone else. And yes, I would shed a tear or two. But I don't know, I think this is just so important to me now that I was just able to pick myself up and say, okay, so I need to do something else. I need to work on it more. Maybe the cover letter needs improving. Maybe I can improve the first chapter.
So tell us a bit more about what made the difference after that.
I noticed that one of the other students from the course that I'd been on was getting her first book published. I saw it on social media, so I contacted her, and she put down her success to going on a further course, which is 3 months long, but it was like a full course on right from the beginning. It was a selective course, so I had to apply, submit for that. And I did it based on a second book, which I started writing. I was accepted for the course, and again it gave me lots of really good advice. But again, it was the people that I met on the course that made the difference, and most of us kept in touch afterwards and were able to help each other, reading each other's books and giving feedback.
Is it your second book? So we're not talking about that for good, where you did that?
Well spotted. Yes, it was my second book, but the problem was my heart was really with that for good. I mean, the second one I enjoyed writing because I got about halfway through. But if I did get that one published, the publishers would probably want me to stick with that genre, and then that for good probably would never have been accepted. Thankfully, the others that I kept in touch with were happy to read back for good and give me feedback.
Right, was this next turning point, do you think?
No, actually the next turning point, because it was taking time, and last year I felt for the first time under pressure to get the book either published quickly or maybe forget about it and try to get a full-time job that brought money in. So I seriously started thinking about self-publishing instead of going down the traditional route as I had been doing. Another writer called Anna Lucia, she's got a lovely book called Broken Madonna, if you're interested. She was going to be self-publishing her book in November. This is the last year. We were joined by another lovely writer who was getting her book published through the Book Guild, which is like halfway between a traditional publisher and self-publishing. So I thought, well, I might as well submit to them. This is my last attempt to submit to a publisher before I just embrace self-publishing. And then they said yes.
That's a great bit of the story now. We get to that bit. That's lovely. I'm really happy for you here. But could you tell us a bit more about the novel?
Back for Good is inspired by real near-death experiences. It's a touching and uplifting book about second chances, personal growth, the transformational power of guidance from the spirit world. It follows Sasha, my main character, as she navigates heartbreak, self-discovery and healing, alongside her feisty and unconventional spirit guide called Zinnia, who brings humour and wisdom to their journey. Yes, it's got themes of forgiveness, of self-awareness and the importance of asking for help. It's a poignant yet humorous book, which I hope will resonate with readers facing their own life challenges.
I knew a little bit about what was behind us. I know that painting, now it's Jill's. And I feel it's connected to what we're doing tonight.
Yes.
Could you explain a bit more?
This is what I painted based on one of the chapters in the book where Sasha has a lucid dream and creates this beam of light in her dream. I painted it in the hope that that could be my book cover. You can see by this book cover that the publisher didn't agree. So, yeah. So I can just bring that along with me and say, this is my cover. But I have had very good feedback about this one, so I'm not too disappointed.
Right, so that sort of brings the evening to a conclusion. Thanks everybody for coming and being so supportive of Jill. Really appreciate it. I want to also talk about, sorry Jill, I can see you're twitching now. I'm not going to what have I missed?
Well, what I missed earlier, I meant to say that we're all going to go down to the Plume to celebrate. So when you said to the pub, I suddenly remembered, yes. I want to let you know, because I'd love you to come down. Yes, Nicola?
So do you actually have copies now that we can buy?
Yes, I've brought copies with me.
And they're
So
for whom, are they?
I'll sign them here in the foyer, and Dan and Dee will probably head back down to the pub to join Steve to be ready for whoever gets down there before I do. But as soon as I've locked up, that's where I'm going to be.
And I might add there as well that you can buy the book from Dog Greenfinch, you can order it from Dog Greenfinch, and which is a little bookshop, I'm sure everyone's familiar with, just down St James's Street there. And Jill will be happy to put any message in their books. So if you think about it a couple of days later or a week later, you think, oh, that'd be a nice gift for someone, or I'd like it signed, and I didn't get one on the night. You can do that, you can still get it there, and you can tell your friends to go and get it there. Which brings me to the next bit, which is quite important. How this goes for Jill now. We talked about, there's an extra bit that I just want to add in here, because it amazed me when Jill told me, and I made it just tell you as well, how many people bring out a book a year? How many people?
About 90,000.
Yeah. And I just feel like, you know, let's do what we can to get this book moving and selling, because it is fabulous already. That way through, and it is good, it really is. So I think it's really important that when you read the book, if you're able to, just leave a review somewhere. And that goes for any writers, I think. It's really important. Or anyone that does something in the arts, you know, if you can support them in that way, it's really what sells things nowadays. So if you could leave Amazon, Waterstones, I'm going to be looking at all of them. Social media really is the thing, you know, and it'd be really nice if we can support you by doing that as well, you know, by sharing what we've enjoyed about our story, you know, what we felt about it. So that's another important thing.
Thank you. Yeah, that would be really appreciated.
Yeah, so I think that's it. Yeah, that you can get it in Dog Greenfinch, and please come to the pub afterwards. I think that's my message. But Jill's going to pop herself outside in a minute, tell her about your near-death experiences. And we'll see you at the pub. Thank you very much. Thanks.